Hi, I'm Evelyn Garrett from Max Solutions. Today we're talking about mental health in the workplace, a guide for small business owners. So today I'd like to share with you some information about stress, anxiety, depression and burnout, and we'll talk about some treatment options as well. So looking at stress and performance, I have some slides that we'll be showing now. So there's healthy forms of stress, and this is this type of stress that we use to motivate us, to get us out of bed, give us things to do. And this is also the motivation that we need to, in some cases, start a new hobby or even a business. So this is healthy forms of stress. Sometimes when we actually have a little bit too much stress, we tend to notice that anxiety and depression symptoms start to appear. And then if we are performing with too much stress as well, then it can sometimes lead to chronic conditions as well. This can lead to burnout, and in some cases burnout can also lead to chronic forms of depression, anxiety and other mental health conditions. So some common reactions to stress. We can have a look at some physical sensations. So if you're experiencing anxiety, you might feel tension in your head, you might notice your heart is racing, you might notice an increase in your heart rate, increase in blood pressure, maybe even a decrease in immunity. Your stomach might be upset. You might also have sleep problems and indigestion. Sleep problems could be sleeping too much or not sleeping enough. They say generally sleep, you should be getting between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And one of the common things that I hear from small business owners is that they have such competing demands that often work hours, they tend to work a lot longer to try to keep up with demand. So maybe just be aware of that if you notice that your sleep is starting to diminish. Similarly, also people, they can start eating a little bit more as well, or eating less. That could be something else to look out for. When we look at cognitive responses to stress as well, this can actually mean that you might start being a little bit more restless than normal, so you might be working properly during the day, but then you kind of might start getting a bit fidgety or kind of losing focus as well. These sorts of symptoms can impact on your ability to focus. So some of the cognitive responses to stress can also be restlessness, worrying, lack of focus, indecisiveness, forgetfulness, negative thinking and internalisation. When we think about cognitive responses to stress, this generally means that it could be difficult for you to focus on completing tasks or just before you're about to do something. For some people, they experience a lot of anxiety and nervous energy, and so it can actually prevent them from following through with some of those tasks. Emotional stress signs could be anxiety. It's sort of like people tell me that it's like a wave of anxiety that kind of comes over them. And sometimes this can occur without any particular reason. Sometimes people do experience it because of performance anxiety. However, other people, they might be just sitting there watching TV and not experiencing any type of distress at all, and then all of a sudden this wave of emotion just comes over people. Some other people may feel irritable. That could be another symptom of stress for them. Also feelings of depression, like low mood, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. Also, anger outbursts could be another symptom of stress. Even if you haven't experienced or noticed anxiety or depression, anger can actually be a form of depression in a sense. It's sort of like emotion that's been held down, and then all of a sudden it just comes up in a huge burst. Often at not appropriate times as well. There can also be the emotional feelings of insecurity and even feelings of being burnt out or under pressure. Some of the behavioural changes that people might experience when they're under a lot of stress could be changes in appetite, changes in sleep disturbance, so either with appetite eating too much or too little, or choosing foods that aren't healthy, and also sleep disturbance too. Some people, they can oversleep or not receive enough sleep. They might have broken sleep. We've already spoken about anger outbursts too. Another symptom might be anger outbursts as well. Substance or alcohol use can also be another symptom that people may find themselves kind of just falling into. They sort of might be drinking a little bit more than normal, or change different substances as well to cope. Also increase in smoking and social withdrawal too. Some people also, if they are experiencing a lot of stress, there's a lot more emotionality. So there's maybe a bit more crying when there's nothing to cry about. I was talking with a lady the other day, and she was just sitting on the couch and she was having a really pleasant conversation, and all of a sudden she just had tears falling from her eyes and she just didn't understand what was happening. In her case, there was a lot of stress that she'd experienced for quite a while, and this was just her body's way of helping her to get rid of some of that stress. And also relationship conflicts as well. Sometimes this can appear when people are experiencing too much stress. So what are some of the causes of anxiety and depression? You name it, anything. There are quite a few different things. So it could be family history or personal trauma. Sometimes if people have experienced chronic symptoms or even genetic disposition too, that might be, there might be some predetermining factors of people developing anxiety or depression. It could also be some ongoing stressful events as well. Sometimes if people have been exposed to things for quite a period of time, it can have an impact biologically on a person and a person's ability to maintain resilience. So some anxiety and depression symptoms may actually appear. This is similar to with elevated stress over a long period. I've put in the slide a comment about bullying or aggression. Elevated stress over a long period of time could also be caring responsibilities for other family members, either in the home or even with its extended family members too. Sometimes the ongoing stress of caring for people can reduce a person's resilience and can actually create depression or anxiety symptoms as well. Physical health problems can also be another cause of anxiety and depression. Sometimes people not being able to do what they have been able to do, or the constant feeling of physical pain, can have a huge impact on a person. It sort of challenges people's future dreams as well, being able to continue with what they're wanting to do. And sometimes people, they kind of get in a crossroads and they have to work out, well, if I can't do this, then what else can I do? Also, substance use and personality factors. Personality factors would be looking at your genetic predisposition. So there might be some chemicals within your body that actually need a bit of help, and we'll talk a little bit more about treatment strategies and the importance to understand fully medication types and whether that's actually something that might be helpful for you. So let's have a look a little bit more about anxiety and what it is and how people experience it. So everybody does experience pressure, everyone experiences a little bit of worry. This is all normal and it's part of being a person. It's such a good thing, it's a very, very healthy thing. As I said before, a small level of stress is great and healthy, but if it's prolonged for over a fairly long time, it can start having an impact on a person. So anxiety actually has a very important job, and I think that it's actually quite important to understand the job of anxiety. Its primary function is to tell us whether we're safe or whether we're not safe, and it prepares us to actually manage situations well. So if there's a threat that's coming to us, anxiety will be the the emotion or the physical sensation that tells us about whether we should continue on the same path or completely change directions. So if you think about kind of caveman days, if there's like a bear or a tiger coming towards us, anxiety is the part of us that tells us to run away or to fight, stand up and fight, to run away and flee, or to completely freeze. Sometimes freezing actually is a very good action, and sometimes people who think, oh well, I did nothing about a particular situation, they actually did do something. It was the anxiety that froze them that helped them to get through that time. So anxiety is one of our best friends. So anxiety can be very, very helpful in terms of being a business partner with you, because this will be the thing that you can look out for if perhaps you've missed something, if you're worried about something, give it some attention and ask it questions. Like there might have been some tasks that you haven't started yet and the anxiety is trying to help you to move to do that. Or there may be some things that you're sort of feeling overworked and you might need to actually reassess the demands and your workload. If you're concerned about your anxiety responses, it is important to talk with somebody about it. This way you can work out whether the stress that you're feeling is in a sort of healthy and optimal range, or if perhaps it could be leading a little bit to burnout. So we'll talk next a little bit about depression. Depression is a very normal feeling as well. It's normal to feel sad and to feel upset. This is a good thing. Also, when you're grieving as well, it's appropriate to feel sad and upset. And there's even a period of depression that people do experience that low mood for a certain time. This is your body's way of helping you to process the grief and to let go. If you are experiencing depression, there are a few things to recognise. So on the slide, that some early warnings might be a change in mood. You might be feeling low or flat. You might not experience pleasure in usual activities at all. So behaviourally, you might either start sleeping more or sleeping less, and the same with appetite as well, eating more or eating less. Some people often say that they're quite tearful when they go through depressive episodes, and they can be quite irritable. Can be experiencing low levels of energy, and your body might feel quite heavy. A lot of people say that they feel very flat and just kind of the shoulders are slumping. Maybe this could be a sign, if you're experiencing that you might be experiencing depression. Also, habits change as well. You might stop normal activities and also have a pessimistic outlook. For some people who also experience depression, they might start to socially withdraw as well, not wanting to go to events, not wanting to actually engage in different activities. Depression can also be a sign for us that perhaps we might be understimulated as well. Perhaps we don't have enough things going on, or we might want to change. So maybe this could be something to think about. If you're concerned about some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing depression, definitely go and talk to your GP or a mental health practitioner as well, so that you can understand a little bit more about why the depression is there. Or there could even be some genetic factors that you might also like to look at, treatment methods in terms of medication as well. So what might your early warning signs be? For some people, they might find it difficult to concentrate on tasks if they're experiencing anxiety or depression. They might feel tired and fatigued. Perhaps they're usually tearful or emotional, getting angry easily, or frustrated with tasks or people, drinking alcohol to cope, finding it hard to make decisions, avoiding social situations, and procrastinating. Being small business owners means that you probably have your own set of challenges as well. So I think I mentioned before, sometimes people often work long hours to keep up with demand. This is something to be mindful of too, because if you're already feeling quite highly strung or quite low, and then you also have all of your work commitments that you're trying to stay on top of, and then you end up staying up later because you have that flexibility, because you can work from home for some of you, it can start to cut into your personal life as well. So just be mindful of those boundaries. And that's the second point too, blurred boundaries between work and home. Sometimes having a home business can be so good because it's very flexible. You can get your washing done whenever you want, clean your house when you want to. You might have caring responsibilities too, so you don't have to work with a manager to have to micromanage your time. So sometimes those boundaries then between work and home can be very blurred. Sometimes this is good, other times it can be problematic. Some small business owners, they also may feel quite isolated. This can also increase in depression symptoms at times. If there's that feeling of, well, I don't really know what to do or how to get out of things, that sense of isolation can increase. So just be mindful of that and maybe consider some networking. Managing cash flow and finances is also, it's a huge pressure for small business owners. There can often be just that concern about, well, if the clients don't respond, then where's the next client going to come from? That can be quite challenging as well, and it can impact on your stress. Having multiple roles as well is an extra challenge that small business owners don't have if compared to people who are working. In an organisation, there is the manager, there are the people that are following through and doing the tasks, they're doing the work. You also have to think about marketing yourself. You're thinking about all of the other home duties as well that you have to do as well. So there's actually a lot of stress and strain that you might be under just to do the everyday things. So running your business as well, you might have a lot of different hats. Networking is hugely important as well then. Delegating responsibilities to other people can be very helpful. And meeting legal obligations too. It's important that you know exactly what your responsibilities are. So doing your research is paramount. Keep your checklists up to date, do everything that you need to do. That is also an extra stress and pressure that might trigger your anxiety, so you can be mindful of that. And also managing yourself and others. When we work, we're there to work, but then other people might need us during the day. I've spoken with quite a few business owners that say, well, family members think that because you run a small business, you have all of this time available, you've got flexibility, you can go and do things. At what point then do you get to catch up with the rest of your work? So managing relationships is crucial for you to be able to also invest into the life and the love within your business as well. So when we think about our mental health, you can experience anxiety and depression symptoms and be burnt out. What's the difference between burnout and clinical depression and clinical anxiety? Well, here's a good way to look at it. If you won a holiday, an all expenses paid holiday, and somebody was also going to run your business for you, they were going to look after everything at home, feed your animals, they were going to feed you, water your plants, do everything, and all that you had to do was just go to this holiday and just relax. If you were experiencing burnout, those depression and anxiety symptoms would more than likely go away. That you'd probably notice that the heart palpitations would start reducing, you would more than likely start getting some interest back or being curious to explore different parts on your holiday. People that have clinical depression and clinical anxiety would still experience those anxiety and depression symptoms. They would still be on this beautiful holiday with no stress, and their heart would still be racing. or they might still worry about which direction the wind would go. I don't know, but that would be an example. So there's quite a big difference. If you notice that you're able to recover, generally after a weekend, you probably don't have clinical anxiety or clinical depression. So this can be helpful for you to know that, oh, I'm not going crazy, I'm just stressed. So the next thing that we need to talk about is if you do experience anxiety and depression and those symptoms are persistent, it might be time for you to talk with a mental health practitioner or with your GP to look at a support plan for you. So talking with your doctor is a great place to start. Talking with with a psychologist and external mental health professional as well is very important. It's actually more effective if you can maybe take medication as well as cognitive behavioural therapy with a psychologist, with a social worker or a mental health nurse. It's just a lot more effective because then the strategies that you discuss, you can tell if that's actually helping to improve your symptoms. So I think that's probably about all that I wanted to cover today in this video. There are some additional supports as well. So here at Max Solutions, I'm on our EAP team, the Employee Assistance Program, and we're offering support for small business owners and families to attend counselling if that's what you're interested in. We're offering phone counselling and face-to-face support as well. It sort of all depends on what's happening with COVID as well at this time. So do give us a call if you have any questions, or if you wanted to talk about any of your strategies and anything else that you're experiencing as well. I'd love to hear from you. So my details are on the PowerPoint. You're more than welcome to contact us. Yeah, and that's about it for today. Okay, thank you. Bye.